Well, it's now my distinct pleasure to welcome our speakers for this afternoon. And as Candace mentioned, we have a new format here, which we hope you'll all enjoy. I think you will. It's conversational. It'll be Tony and Fred talking about subjects we're all very interested in. So first, I'd like to introduce Fred Curado. Fred is a former director of the Wings Club and a current member. And Fred, we appreciate that very much. And he's the president and chief executive officer of Embraer and has been since 2007. Embraer is the world's largest manufacturer of commercial jets of up to 120 seats and one of Brazil's leading exporters. Fred began his career in 1984 as a manufacturing engineer at Pratt & Whitney, Canada, working on behalf of Embraer. In February 95, he became executive vice president for planning and organizational development. In 1998, he was named Executive Vice President for the airline market and held this position until he was appointed CEO. Fred has been awarded the Medal of Aeronautical Merit by the Brazilian government and the Medal of Merit by the Brazilian Association of Military Engineering. He's also a very good friend of mine, so Fred, welcome. And for today's interview, we're pleased to have with us Tony Veloci, the editor-in-chief of Aviation Week and Space Technology, and a brand new member of the Wings Club, and we thank you for that, Tony. Tony has been with Aviation Week for 23 years. He's received several journalism awards, including the McGraw-Hill Corporate Achievement Award for Editorial Excellence and the Royal Aeronautical Society's Aerospace Journal of the Year, and also a very good friend of mine. Will you join us, please? And now it's all yours, Tony.
It's an honor, it's a privilege to kick off what may be a new Wings Club format for guest speakers. And I'm honored to kick it off with Fred. Fred, thanks. So many questions, so little time.
Honor is mine. And we are prototypes here, so take it easy on us.
Fred, I want to start off by talking about the competitive landscape. Embraer, with its notable success in recent years, most recently at the expense of Bombardier, faces a future marked by more competitors. They include not only a resurgence by Bombardier, but China, Japan. How is this prospect influencing Embraer's strategic planning, or is it?
Well, obviously the competitive landscape influences anyone's strategic planning. You cannot disregard what's going on around you. But we really try to focus our future on what we see as opportunities to serve customers, identifying niches or segments where we can play, trying to understand, needs from customers, requirements, and they do not come necessarily in an easy way. So talking to airlines, they will not tell you that I want an airplane exactly like this, and that. So you have to really have the ability to identify the opportunity to understand what are the requirements, and we're talking about developments that take 6-7 years, airplanes which will be in service for another 20-30 years. So it's a little bit of an exercise of futurology to translate that into an aircraft design, then certify it, manufacture and serve it. So our focus is clearly on identifying those segments. If you look back in our history, the 145, even before that, the Bandeirantes, most recent on the jet era, the 145, the 170, 190, the Phenoms, on the military side as well. We're always trying to carve out our space and be the best we can in those spaces.
But in terms of the competitive landscape, don't you try to factor in where your competitors are, what they're doing, how you can perhaps leapfrog them?
Yeah, we certainly do. We certainly do. I think when we launched the 170, 190, there were two manufacturers engaged in designs for the same segment, and we just thought we could do it and survive and take a leading role in that segment. We did. And sometimes you also have to be humble and to as you read the competitive landscape, understand that time is also a key variable. Our recent decision not to invest in a larger aircraft, which we have done a lot of work as pre-design, including wind tunnels tests and everything. So we know that technically we can build a larger narrow-body aircraft, probably a few points better as far as the economics per seat than the new re-engined aircraft. But the point is, a few percentage points will suffice to swing a very, very solid customer base, airplanes which are clearly very, very good products. In our point of view, it takes more than that.
Well,
you need a breakthrough.
The last time we had a conversation down at your office in Sao Paulo, you were looking at a clean sheet, potential for a clean sheet design. Right?
Exactly.
So with Boeing now offering the airline customers the 737 MAX versus a larger 737 airframe, Airbus aggressively marketing its Neo. So you decide not to go head-to-head. So looking beyond 2020, are you, for all practical purposes, boxed in at the lower end of the single aisle range permanently?
Not necessarily. This is where the variable time comes. So I don't see today a return on investment case for that, and I don't see for ourselves. I don't see for anybody, frankly. And time changes things a lot. So we're in no way, putting ourselves in the box, as you say, to say, well, this is it for now. But
for now, meaning?
For now, for the next
5 years?
For this decade.
10 years? Okay.
Yeah, for this next generation or this next turn of products. But beyond 2020, when maybe there will be, some newer breakthrough technologies, engines should be even better. Who knows? Who knows how Embraer will evolve? Who knows how the other competitors will evolve in these years? I mean, if you asked me 15 years ago, if we would be where we are today, I would say, well, I don't think even in the most optimistic scenario we would think so. It's just a decision for the time being, as we are.
Without trying to sound patronizing, which I am not, Embraer has really captured the imagination of the aviation community in recent years, to say the least, and led other airframers to think defensively. In fact, I would suggest that was very much on the mind of Boeing leadership leading up to the agreement that you signed with Boeing to work on future flight safety and manufacturing initiatives. I know many of the details have yet to be worked out, but what does Embraer want from that agreement? For example, could you envision a joint aircraft development program?
Well, this is an agreement. For us, it's a company that we admire a lot. Boeing is a company which is very, very strong in our country. So my generation grew up flying in Boeing aircraft in Brazil, and it's a company that we have most respect. And we came to a point in discussing with them that we can have a real equal to equal partnership in a small context. We'll be discussing, R&D. They have lean manufacturing initiatives that we also have the last 5 years. So we certainly have things to learn from Boeing, and it's flattering for us that they seem to understand they also have something to learn from us. So where will that take us? I don't know. I don't think they do either. It's a question. It's a path that we are starting. So your question, will that lead to a joint development?
Yep.
There is nothing like that today. Maybe, maybe not. This is what's nice about the future. You don't have to be totally pragmatic.
Well, is there some speculation even internally that perhaps that might be a logical?
Not in the short term. Not in the short term. They committed to MAX. We're committed to the developing a new generation of E-jets, and those are two existing products. Very, very hard to find a commonality there. But it's a long-term cycle industry. So.
Understand. Do you expect any IP that flows from cooperative research to apply to aircraft, not yet officially on the drawing board? Are there restrictions on IP?
There
in
will
this partnership?
there will be on the U.S. side there is a very clear. There are very clear rules about IP and export of technology. On Brazil, not that much. On the other hand, it is in our bylaws. The Brazilian government has a golden share in our capital, so they have veto power on technology either. It would be a bit preposterous to say that we know things that Boeing do not know, but it may be. So this is something that we have to learn as we go.
Let's looking at it from a slightly different dimension. Might the agreement produce results that can work for the KC-390 or EX program for E-jets?
Yeah, it could be. As I said, this is initially is an MOU. That I told in the interview with Joe Anselmo was there, and I said I realized this agreement is not very sexy today. There's not much meat into it, but it can take us to interesting paths. Not only for us, but for the industry. When two players collaborate without a direct conflict there is no competition directly from Embraer and Boeing, neither on the military side nor on the airline side. So some nice things may emerge.
Does this agreement with Boeing preclude such a partnership with EADS or Airbus?
No, or theirs or them with somebody else. It's not exclusive. No.
Let's go back to something you mentioned a moment ago about listening to your customers, the voice of the customer, and how that factors into your aircraft development programs. What kind of input are you getting from those customers about developing about evolving your aircraft product portfolio?
Specifically about the E-jets?
Yeah.
Well, certainly we have one system or another that we can improve dispatch reliability. Couple of systems that we still have some work to do. So can we take the opportunity of doing that as we think about the aircraft? Probably yes. Certainly lower fuel burn engines. And depending on the assembly of the engine on the aircraft, our wings they stand relatively high, so we have a relatively room for. But we may end up concluding that we should redesign our wings and be a little bit more aggressive with in changing the aircraft a little bit to really capture the best of the new engines, the new generation of engines. Interiors for sure is something that we always take a look at. So.
Do you have a timeline in mind for the on the wing?
We are thinking about entering into service of the first model around 2018, and we're also thinking about doing something in between, something a more marginal improvement over the existing aircraft in between. Because every year we improve a little bit, so you keep doing that. But let's say a full-fledged version, 2018 is probably our best target date.
Let's talk a little bit about business aircraft. Embraer is doing 2 mid-sized jets already. Your team has talked about potentially doing an ultra-long-range aircraft, and you're offering fly-by-wire in an aircraft class that did not have it, but the top end is pretty decked out. Are you considering, what considerations are you giving to technology that would allow you to differentiate where you are playing?
I think, Tony, it's maybe it's more driven by brand recognition, by customer service than actual technology. When we did our first attempt into the business aircraft arena was the Legacy. Legacy is a derivative of the ERJ-135. If you fly a new Legacy coming out of the assembly line today, it's a very different aircraft from the original Legacy 10 years ago. So it is really much more of a business jet now than it was. And we learned a lot during this year. In 2005, we had to make we made a strategic decision to really invest in that business. Not just to be a niche player, but to really to become a major player in the business. And of course, looking at the range of airplanes and markets, by far the most attractive segment of the market is the top end.
Sure.
And of course, the entry barriers are also the most difficult to surpass. And I think we made a very correct decision at that time, which is, understanding that you need a real brand, a strong brand. You need the credibility of not only the aircraft, which we believe we can do. We could do it today, we think, but really how to really serve customers in this high-end market, and the brand attached to that. So when you look at companies like I'll mention Gulfstream, my friend is here, or Falcon, my other friend is over there, Jean. It's those things you have to conquer. You cannot just they just come from gravity. So we decided to start below with the phenoms and build up our reputation, and also to learn. So this is our game plan. So we have today, 2 airplanes in development, the Legacy 450, the Legacy 500. With those, we'll complete the basic portfolio of our family. We have from, let's say, a $4 million aircraft, the Phenom 100, up to the Lineage 1000, which is a $50+ million jet. From there, we'll see where we're going. So today, our commitment is to those 2 airplanes.
What kind of backlog are we talking about here?
We have, I don't know by heart. We have the total company backlog is about 16 billion. Probably 20-25% of that is business aircraft.
Would you? So is an ultra long range business jet in Embraer's future?
Not in my current strategic plan. It is not. How we would like to get there. We think we need to get there. When and how are very difficult questions to answer.
Going to turn to a completely different subject on scope clause. To what extent will that shape your future aircraft programs?
Yeah, that's a good question. Scope clauses are, in my point of view, a distortion of business, of any business model. It's an inhibitor to the airlines to optimize their fleets they're flying, and it's been like this for decades. So, and it's not going away. In our point of view, it's going to stay. Maybe more flexible, less flexible, but this is a handicap for the U.S. airlines, and also some European airlines that they have that. We developed airplanes in the past for really to match scope clause. We developed 50-seaters, as our friends in Canada also did. We developed a 44-seater for American Airlines, specifically for a specific item or clause of their scope clause. And I'll tell you, those are not very sound business decisions. So I would be very, very careful to design a new aircraft or to limit size or performance or whatever of a new aircraft based on scope clauses, because they change, and so when you design an airplane, you really have to think worldwide. So I think that's my answer. So I'll probably resist a lot to tailor the aircraft to a scope clause restriction if that jeopardizes the competitiveness of the aircraft globally.
Is that part of the discussions that you're having with your customers? Does that come up?
Well, it's they are. I mean, probably not them. The unions are on the drive seat on that thing. So we just wait and see. We have an opportunity because as we will re-engine and reform the E-jets on the lower end, because the 190, 195, they're not really real regional aircraft. Actually, none. All 4 models, they are not regional aircraft per se. They are real airliners. Just smaller as far as reliability, as far as everything, comfort, baggage compartment, performance, etc. But the usage of the 170, 175, it's been more on the regional airlines. The 190, 195 more on the main lines. So depending on how this thing evolves, if the timing is right, the 170, 175, the new 170, 175 may have some. That of course would be taken into account. But again. To the limit, to the extent that does not jeopardize the competitiveness of the product. And the growth, as we all know, it's actually more in Asia, more in other regions. We cannot just tailor the airplane just for anybody for any particular case, not even scope clauses.
We're going to open this up to questions in just a few minutes, but there's one additional question I would like to ask Fred before we do go to the audience. I want to take just a few minutes to talk about the light attack advanced training aircraft competition going on between Airbus and, between Embraer and Wichita-based Hawker Beechcraft. Considering the relatively modest size of this Air Force program as military aircraft procurements go, this has turned into quite a contest.
Yeah.
From your perspective, what's on the line? What's on the line here beyond the LAS contract? Or do you think it's just that's what we're talking about here, just a contract? My sense is it goes beyond that.
Yeah, I cannot speak on their behalf. I can speak for us. For us, you're absolutely right. It is not the $350 million, like equivalent to like 10 190s. This is not it. I mean, it's an important contract. Don't get me wrong, but the ability to sell to the Department of Defense in the United States, the ability to have the U.S. Air Force flying our airplanes has an intangible value, or we think it has an intangible value, which is the real, let's say, that's the real objective there. Keep in mind, we were selected in the past with Lockheed Martin to supply the 145 air surveillance airplane. The program was canceled. So that was a frustration of some years ago. And this time around was even worse because the contract was awarded. So it was really, I mean, a very negative surprise for us. The airplane, the RFP called for an off-the-shelf airplane, called for an airplane with proven combat experience, and with no arrogance. It's not that the Super Tucano is the best airplane. It's the only airplane that is flying today to that mission. So,
but it's really
it is off the shelf. It is there. It's flying by 14 air forces, or I don't know, hundreds of airplanes in service. So it's I don't know. I mean, I cannot speak for the U.S. government. What happened there? Our documentation had nothing wrong. So we just have to wait and trust that there will be a fairness sequence of this whole thing.
LAS is the lead article in this week's issue of the of Aviation Week in Space Technology, which is at your table. Is the LAS critical to your strategy, longer term strategy to expand into the military market?
No, it is not critical. It's important, not critical. The critical program for us is the KC-390. This is critical because this is a multi-billion-dollar development. It's a large aircraft. It's a little bit bigger than C-130 lifter. Very complex flight envelope because not only it's a cargo, it's also a tanker. It's an airplane that's going to land in Antarctica on ice. It's an airplane that's going to deploy cargo. It's a jet. It's not a turboprop, so has to fly well. At low speeds has to fly well. At high speeds, it's a real complex airplane. If and when we get it ready, which is 2016 is our date to have the airplane certified, that's really a platform that we're going to build on for the next decades. So the LAS would be important. Of course, training units for the Tucano, it's always important. But again, I think the intangible fact that we were selected by the U.S. Air Force, which we were, by the way. So to that extent, we already got it. But it's like getting an award and not being able to take it home, right? That's the feeling that we had.
Yep. Let's open it up to the audience. Question?
If you're looking at turboprops again.
But the majority of the demand, even with the higher oil prices, we still believe it's going to be on the jet side. So, and we do not see room for more than two manufacturers. Last year, for example, to see how dramatically small and fierce competition is, there were something like 160 turboprops sold last year, 150 ATRs, and I think 7 or 8 or 10 or some Dash 8-400s. So This is not a market that I think we should really engage our engineering to develop a product.
The return on investment just
Yeah,
isn't there.
I don't think it works. I don't think it works, at least on the foreseeable future.
We know that Embraer has been active in studying and developing biofuels, and I was just wondering if you could give an update on what's going on in Brazil with the development.
There are some developments, leading edge developments, to fermentation of a sugar cane or from ethanol. So we are engaged in a couple of initiatives, one with GE and Amyris in Brazil. They are developing the biofuel, and of course GE and Embraer are adapting the engine and the aircraft to at least to prototype that possibility. We are also engaged in another deal with Airbus and Boeing, the three of us, to also with other biofuel initiatives. So it's an incipient technology. It's doable. There has been many flights already. We flew already, as Boeing did, as Airbus did. It's possible, but the gap between the technical viability and the economical viability, I still believe there are many, many years. But there's a lot of money being put in these efforts, and some breakthrough may always happen earlier than we think.
What do you think of Delta investing in talking about investing in a refinery, buying its own refinery?
Yeah, well, I think it's a question of time. So the drop-in strategy for the industry, for me, is absolutely irreversible. How fast that's going to happen, I don't know. So I think the answer to the question, the investment question, is how fast and how steep you think that drop-in will be. So they're closer to the issue than we are as a manufacturer. The airlines are closer.
Well, it speaks to the desperation, really, right, of carriers, and how much they're getting squeezed on fuel costs.
In 10 years, from $20 a barrel to $120 a barrel, one might think, it could be 220. And then a lot of things start to make sense that today don't.
Fred, I think our time is up.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tony. Take care.
Thank you.
Fred, it's a great pleasure to present this to you.